Once you've decided on the exercises and drills that you need to make the change in your golf swing, the next thing you have to do is to put together an exercise plan. And when you're putting together an exercise plan, there's three things that you have to take into account. The first thing is, how often do you have to repeat the exercise before you know how to do the exercise correctly? The second thing is, how often do you have to repeat the exercise to actually get it into flesh and blood, to make it automated, to build the synapses in your brain which are going to control and steer the exercise? And the third thing is, how often are you going to have to repeat to actually increase the body's potential, its mobility, its flexibility, and its power and speed? The first thing to look at is you've got to do it correctly. And if you're not exercising correctly, then obviously the exercise won't bring you anything whatsoever. On the contrary, it could cause you more problems than it helps. So what we're really looking for is doing the exercise 3 times a day, 5 times a week, for at least a couple of weeks until I'm absolutely certain I'm doing the job correctly. This doesn't mean doing a lot of repetitions. If I do 4 or 5 repetitions in the morning, 4 or 5 repetitions at lunchtime, and 4 or 5 repetitions in the evening, then after a couple of weeks I know exactly how to do the drill. And that's really the first thing I want to be looking at. To get this movement into flesh and blood, to build the mechanisms which are needed to steer the movement, you've got to be doing the repetitions far more often, but not every day. It's good to have at least a day's break in between each repetition. We're looking at a magic number of around about 1800 repetitions over 4 to 6 weeks, which means really you're looking at a minimum of 100 repetitions a day, and that 3 times a week. So if you were to separate the days and say on the first day I'll do 100 repetitions, the second day I'll just do 15, the third day I'll do 100 repetitions, the fourth day I'll just do 15, and on the 5th day I'll do 100 repetitions again. And then divide those repetitions, so you're doing 33, 33, 34. That way you're actually giving your mind a chance to actually learn the movements it's going to need in order to make the movement correct and get that into an intuitive movement over a period of 4 to 6 weeks. The final thing you're looking at is, how many repetitions do I have to do to actually increase the power and the mobility of my body when I'm doing them, to get more energy out of the same movement. And there you're really looking at working your muscles until they become tired and the fibers of the muscle actually start to break. If you can actually get to that point, then the muscles rebuild themselves stronger and faster than they were before. But this means either increasing the repetitions or increasing the power of the repetition. That means by using weight or resistance, you can increase the effectiveness of a repetition. So I might be able to keep the actual repetitions at 100 a day and just use a certain amount of weight in the repetition to increase the power of my body, depending on what I'm looking at. Learning is always a question of doing exactly the same thing again and again. Getting it into the unconscious mind is a question of repeating it at least 1800 times, and increasing the power of this movement is a question of building the muscle so it's capable of bringing the required power. Just don't forget that whatever you do to acquire the power, you've got to keep doing to keep the power. Otherwise, unfortunately, you'll lose it quicker than you found it. If we put that all together, then that means my advice would be to do the first couple of weeks, 5 days a week. You're doing 3 times a week, 100 repetitions. On the other days a week, you're doing 15 or 20 repetitions. After 2 weeks, you only work 3 days a week, but with 100 repetitions. And if you're looking at building the power of your swing, then you want to be using weight or resistance in order to build the muscles a little bit more quickly and effectively.